Long before Randonautica, Hellier, The Institute, Pokemon Go, and YouTube brought liminal nonchalance to the mass public, it was Joseph Buffini and Ongshat. What started as bulletin board posts detailing a team of disgraced scientists creating an interdimensional traveling egg in a Pine Barrens ghost town soon grew into the first internet conspiracy, a series of books, and a game that is still going strong 40 years later, despite the creator's claims. I was first exposed to the Ongshat legend in the early 2000s after a few X-Files inspired web searches. While the allure of a coffee-drinking interdimensional science cult beamed through my modem, I was just a carless teen in New York City. Over time, Ongshat faded to the back of my mind until the year 2020 and the global pandemic. I found myself living in New Jersey at a time without social existence that encouraged outdoor exploration. I was aimlessly driving around one day when I saw the Ongshat Road sign. I was instantly drawn back in, rereading the original materials and catching up on modern message board theories. Within most of the post, I encountered a dismissive common theme surrounding a quote-unquote lack of evidence, which was just the challenge I needed to set out in search of the realities that inspired Amy's fiction. My first few visits were spent driving Ongshat Road and Magnolia to get a lay of the land. There's one thing you learn about driving in New Jersey. Roads are not always named for the towns where they lay, but instead the towns to which they lead. And that is just the case with Ongshat Road. While Ongshat Road is important to the story, there are far too many people who believe the event took place upon its route. While there are places of interest upon Ongshat Road that we will get into here, it is important to follow the road through to Magnolia and follow the clues within the text itself. One of the few streets you can turn onto off of Ongshat Road is Stockton Bridge Road. I've seen many on YouTube and Reddit claim that these foundations are the location where the scientists performed their research and invented the egg. This location has gained such notoriety that there is a group of Midwestern Nation of Islam occultists who visited during the summer months to perform their chaos magic. Many who posted about the foundations on Stockton Bridge Road also referenced this abandoned house located nearby around the corner, back on Ongshat Road. They claim this is the location where the scientists resided, both within the house and the trailers in the woods. Amongst the Ongshat legend, you will hear reference to the Ongshat Rod and Gun Club. According to those Nation of Islam occultists I mentioned earlier, the Rod and Gun Club was located on the corner of Ongshat Road and Burrs Mills Road. While I first assumed that these occultists may have some type of insider information based on who originally settled parts of this land, I later found that their belief on this location came simply through astral projection. began looking into Angshat, I never set out to prove if the events were real, as much as the places. Because if the places didn't exist, if the concept didn't line up, then none of the events could have ever happened. An important note in Matheny's text is a reference that states the Rod and Gun Club was located up a dirt road, something that can be found on old survey maps. The first location I found of interest is something I refer to as the Sand Pit. Easily found on old survey maps, the Sand Pit is located directly up a dirt road off of Magnolia, and the most convenient parking spot while investigating is actually the Angshat parking lot for the Bretona Trail. As you go up this dirt road, you'll find many private property signs, some which indicate a technology company owns parts of this wood. Up the dirt road, you'll hit a fork in the road. Staying to the left of the fork will bring you towards a functioning blueberry farm, as well as the driveway entrance to the sand pit. Keeping to the right at the fork of the road will give you clearer visibility into the sand pit and plenty of places to access. Whether you choose to stay to the left or the right, continuing further on this road will bring you through to 4 Mile Road. Most times, venturing up to the sand pit, you do not encounter anyone. The occasional dirt biker, occasional hiker. Oftentimes while you're in the sand pit, a pickup truck or two will show up though and watch you from the dirt road. Often a white one, sometimes a tannish bronze one, sometimes both. The sand pit is conveniently located. It's near an experimental tower on old survey maps, which now seems to be a college research center in the Pine Barrens. There's also a road that brings you very quickly to the ranger station in the forest itself. Potentially a ranger station where the original pamphlets could have been located. sand pit remains active. This signs bonfires, amongst other things. There's also remnants of structures, possibly anchor spots for fence posts or light posts. There's slabs of concrete with dates etched into them. Wire. Pieces of metal. Lots of sand. Many reports of Ong's have reference a clearing in the woods, much like this one. Spent many months investigating the sand pit, visiting often, convinced this was the location. While I was never guided by astral projection, I did find physical evidence that some type of rotting gun activity was occurring here in the sand pit. Shotgun shells littered the ground, and in some places even suspicious rope, appearing to be like handcuffs. In July of 2023, I was gathering my gear in the Batona Trail parking lot, planning to head up to the sand pit for another investigation when I noticed a pickup truck lingering up the sand road. It was suspicious. It eventually approached and asked if I had a map. I didn't, but offered my assistance anyway. The driver described an afternoon buying roofing equipment, thrown into a tailspin, and a mysterious chair caused him to become lost. The roofer appreciated the directions I provided him and jumped out of his truck to demonstrate his newly acquired shingle lift as a form of thanks. As his presentation came to an end, he asked, "You go into these woods now?" I said yes, and informed him that I often visit to hike. The roofer made sure I was aware that these woods were quote-unquote weird, and recommended an old trick of his to use a paint roller and an extension rod from the back of his truck to check for booby traps. While this was a very real experience, it felt staged. He was a Pennsylvania-based roofer claiming he's been hanging out in these woods since high school, but somehow a chair caused him to get lost on this desolate, sandy road. At the culmination of our interaction, the roofer gifted me his pouch of special gummies. While I threw the gummies out, I often wondered what would happen if I didn't. Perhaps they were the key to unlock this all. A few weeks later, I was back investigating, and there it was, the chair. It was real after all. Another excerpt from Matheny's text that stuck with me was the references to coffee, and the way that it's one of the essentials that the scientists needed and we even come back to Earth to procure. The term blend means something in the world of coffee. I found it coincidental, or perhaps a synchronicity. There's a sign along Longshat Road that referenced a forest blend. I raised this online one day to Matheny and received an interesting response. He informed me that the discriminating egg had much preferred Redshift coffee. This was the clue that sent me down the spiral that made me doubt that the sand pit was the location of the Rotten Gun Club. It opened my eyes to a second location, as well as a series of real-world modern events. A Google search for Redshift coffee finds a web store full of actual coffee that you can purchase and have delivered, but also a series of items such as meditation eggs and things that are often highly priced and long out of stock. The Matheny referenced and suggested a specific blend of coffee to me that day. I often wondered what would happen if I purchased that specific blend. Would he have found out who I am, where I live, had access to me because now he knows my shipping location? Needless to say, I didn't order from the website. I did, however, go down a rabbit hole of Google searches, searching names on the website, finding references to Blue Oyster Cult lyrics, that eventually led me to a mysterious real estate listing. And that was the day I discovered 0 Ongsat Road. Well, it seems a little odd that a property would have the number 0. It could be a placeholder. What I truly found out about the 0 Ongsat listing was just how far away from Ongsat Road the property actually sat. I was able to find 4 potential entrances into the property. The first, located right off Ongsat Road, directly across from the Magnolia Bar and Grill. This path would actually take the scientists through bogs, as referenced in Matheny's text. The second potential entrance would also bring the scientists through bogs, the same bogs. This entrance, however, was directly across the street from the Ongsat Petona Trail parking lot. The third entrance, another dirt road off of Magnolia. And finally, the entrance listed on the real estate listing itself, located off of Tranquility. The potential of 0 Ongsat being the place is supported by an excerpt. Preston Nichols visits Ongsat. They specifically call out that the location was nearby the traffic circle where Highway 70 and Magnolia Road meet. I was able to click off of the real estate listing into the Google Maps and find photographs geotagged to the coordinates of the 0 Ongsat location. These photographs included a roadside memorial, a pumpkin farm, something for picnic area in the woods, bodies of water, 2 photos of a man exploring the woods. But I quickly learned that not all of these photos were taken at 0 Ongsat Road. With what I found, I refused to believe that these photographs, the 0 Ongsat listing, that any of this was a coincidence. Why? The date. February 5th. The date that I left the Forest Blend comment, the date that Matheny responded about Redshift Coffee, the date that I found the 0 Ongsat real estate listing, the date that I found the photos geotagged, and the date that I began my investigation, were all February 5th. Why February 5th? Well, to date, I've only been able to locate the true position of one photograph found in the 0 Ongsat listing. That's the photograph of the roadside memorial to a young girl killed at age 18. Her birthday? February 5th. While that seems suspicious enough, it goes further. The young girl was walking home from a soccer game with her family. She was struck by a car and died. The driver of that car is found completely innocent. No charges pressed. He was leaving the same soccer field, I believe, and was a teacher at the girls' high school. While we're swimming in a sea of synchronicities, I find it too coincidental that a portion of the last name of this driver was also a portion of one of Matheny's later literary works, one where someone is on the search for Zen, for peace, and for tranquility. Thanks to supposed CIA contractor Preston, we know this trucking building contains some type of specialized receiver system. It is, after all, right here across from the bar of the truck. scientists in the Pine Barrens were not tied to a singular location. The egg itself, or the gate as they called it when it was successful, was not located near the Zero Amsat location. Instead, it is much closer to Fort Dix, specifically to the location where the eggheads would have obtained some of the nuclear waste that they would use for their experiments, which can be found up this gated road. When you consider just how small 1 mile actually is, you learn that your search zone is quite limited. The Angsat legend involves Lebanon State Forest, but visitors will learn that Lebanon State Forest was renamed in honor of Brendan Byrne back in 2004. Thus, the Lebanon State Forest Ranger Station would now be the Brendan T. Byrne Forest Ranger Station. There is this obvious choice for which ranger station it was, a visitor center that would likely have brochures, conveniently located a few dirt roads away from Zero Amsat. Path which takes you past this body of water, which I've often wondered was this picture, found geotagged to Zero Amsat, almost like a breadcrumb to lead you along your way. If you focus your research closer to the nuclear dump site, you'll find an alternate location of what may have been the Lebanon State Forest Ranger Station, where the lady said that there was in fact a brochure present. The obvious what next is a visit to Zero Amsat Road, a trip that I plan to save for fall or winter to avoid ticks and other critters. One that may require acquisition of an e-bike. But in the meantime, I request assistance from those who view, particularly those with familiarity of the area. If any of these photos look familiar to you, I invite you to email me. Give me any details you have, coordinates, descriptions, photos of your own. This photo is most interesting to me. I've attempted to find it multiple times. My only real guess to date has been this sandy area located off Magnolia up Coleman's Bridge Road, where the boat launches into Pemberton Lake. That's where I took this photo, which is the closest I've come to lining up to this photo. I've gone so far as enhancing it, cropping it, running it through AI filters, trying to read what it says across the top of the structure. While I believe I made out the word lake, I'm more interested by this creature of sorts that seemed to appear. A little creature, possibly carrying an infant, looking to run back through a gate. In fact, even if these photos aren't familiar to you, if you have experiences in Amsat that you'd like to share, we invite you to submit those as well. Happy to review any stories, photos, videos, anything you've acquired in your own research and journeys. I also provide this email address as an open invitation to Joseph Matheny himself. If you ever find yourself in the Angsat area, looking to retrace the footsteps of the past, feel free to reach out. Happy to adventure together. Just sit down and share stories.